Hello everybody, I'm back and what I'm going to be doing in this video is looking at two models of the Deltic diesel locomotive, neither of which are Acura scale or Bachmann, but actually models from quite some time ago. The first one I'm going to bring up is a Kitmaster one. There we go. And the second one I'm going to be demonstrating and comparing with is the Hornby-Dublo one. Now, both these models came out at more or less at the same time as the original prototypes were beginning to be introduced onto British railways. The Kitmaster one is obviously the model as it was a demonstrator, the demonstrator version, while the Hornby-Dublo one, the one in green, was the livery is certainly the one for the production models. The Hornby-Dublo one, as you can see, is somewhat shorter than it really should be. And again, this is one of these unfortunate compromises that one encountered with Hornby-Dublo, because I think they were trying to utilise as many standard parts as possible, and I would guess that the metal bar chassis which connects both bogies is pretty much the same as the one that was in the Class 20 and the Metrovic Kobo, which they had also recently introduced. So it means that this model is coming out somewhat shorter, considerably shorter than it should be. Now, this has been up before quite recently, and it was, well, a bit tatty looking. It wasn't a bit tatty looking, it was very tatty looking. Mechanically sound, it was fine, but it was filthy, it was pit marked, and I did give it a very considerable makeover. The green paint was largely intact, but the lime green skirt was very pockmarked and filthy, so that received a bit of a makeover. That was repainted. If we look at the front of the locomotive, the nose end, I also let me get that in there. Yeah. Repainted that. I had the impression that Hornby-Dublo and later Wren, sometimes the front of locomotives was something of an afterthought, because it was very crudely painted yellow for the warning panel. So I reapplied the yellow and I painted in the box for the route numbering, which would be black, and then put some transfers on it to just give it something of a lift. I also put a bit of plastic behind the gap at the bottom of the buffer beam there, and painted that red. Other little things which I did along the side was the British Railways emblems were completely rubbed out, so they've been reapplied, and I've also touched up the bogie axle boxes with the yellow for the roller bearings which they carried. Fortunately, the number and the nameplate were okay. The other thing which was pretty difficult to, well, it was a bit difficult to do, was to the front of the locomotive where the motor was, the bogie which was contained the motor. It had splattered filth, dirt, carbon and oil on the inside of the Perspex windscreens, so that had to be taken out and cleaned thoroughly. So that's, that's looking a lot better than it did before. So this has come up reasonably well. I'm quite pleased with the way it's turned out. The model itself doesn't look terribly level. It seems to be raised up on this side more than it should be compared to that side. Now I have had a look at that. I can see that there's, when I've taken it apart, that I can't see anything which is obviously wrong with anything. It's just the way it fits. So that's the Hornby-Dublo Deltic. It has comes with traction tyres on the driving wheels, so its haulage capacity is very considerable. I believe on a demonstration when they launched it, Hornby used the Deltic to haul, I think it was a 6-year-old boy on some extended specially built rolling stock which covered about 3 or 4 tracks, just to give an indication of how powerful it was. So it is what it is, and as all Hornby-Dublo models are highly valued, I think it's a good addition, that anyone should have in their collection. Now this other one here, which is a Kitmaster kit, as actually what became manufactured or produced by Dapol years later, because there is a bit of a story behind that. I did this one about 20 years ago now, and it's hardly ever been out. And this model is actually being placed on the Deltic chassis that Lima made. Interestingly, the prototype Deltic, as modelled here, was a little bit shorter than the production run models, and the Lima chassis was a bit short anyway, so the two would fit together pretty well. So it's one of those oddities where actually the shorter Lima chassis doesn't deter too much from the actual length of the model, because I would imagine that is reasonably accurately portrayed. Now, as with all the Kitmaster models, the lining out was always the plastic on it. The plastic was always raised on the body sides for actual hand painting. Now that was not something I really wanted to do, because I don't think it was good enough to do something like that. So I acquired some of the Fox transfers and applied them over, which wasn't very easy because of the raised profile of the plastic lines that were to be painted on. Also, it didn't come with any window transparencies. Those had to be separately acquired from SE Finecast, who also do the flush windows for a lot of coaches. I also tried to sort of, on this particular model, is give some indication of a side corridor by placing a piece of painted card inside the body, set back a bit to give it the appearance of an actual corridor along the side, and it seems to have worked. Was there anything else that I need to note? Yes, this model laid dormant for a long time, because when Airfix disposed of the tools, the actual tool for the Deltic had Drury diesel shunter written on it, and no one really knew what was inside the tool, and until someone, I think must have been from Deltic, decided to shoot some plastic through it, and lo and behold, out came the Deltic. So it's quite fortuitous that the model has actually survived. Again, it has its place, I think, as a special place, like the Hornby-Dublo version of the Deltic, because it came out at the same time as the actual real ones were hitting the rails. If I can just point a few things out at the front here, if you might be able to see that the raised profile of the lining, because the Fox go faster arrows at the front here don't approximate, they don't match perfectly well with the raised profile that the Kitmaster model had, but there it goes, there it is. So I just thought we'd do that as a bit of a comparison and point of interest, because they are I think they're nice models. But without any further ado, what I'll do, I think, is just give them a spin round. So